In this video, I'm going to show you how to place the front brake hose on this Honda Pilot. This goes from your brake line down to your caliper. Let's get started. With the vehicle safely raised and supported, use a 22mm socket and remove all 5 lug nuts. Now with the wheel off, we can see our brake hose from the brake line down to the caliper. What I always like to start with is to see if this fitting right here will break free and spin on the line. Because if it's stuck on the line, what we have to do is remove the hose off of the line or off of the fitting, as opposed to unthreading this and removing the line off of the hose, which isn't an issue, but it will determine which process we have to take. I like to replace the caliper side end of the hose first, so I can then just swap the hose here and lose the least amount of brake fluid. With that said, use a 10mm flare nut wrench. This grabs onto a couple extra sides as opposed to a regular wrench. Put it on the fitting and pull to break it free. All right, so it broke free from the threads, but it looks like it is spinning the line with it, which is not what I want. I'm gonna try and work it back and forth in hopes that it will let go of the line. I cannot get this to break free from the line, so we're gonna have to do it this way. We're gonna have to take the hose off of the caliper and off the strut and then spin it off of this fitting, and then reverse the procedure, spin it onto the fitting, tighten this up, and then mount it back on the strut and the caliper. So let's go on the other side so we can disconnect the hose from the caliper. While we do that, I'm going to snug this up so it doesn't leak. On the back side of the caliper, you'll see the banjo bolt, for which you can use a 14mm socket to break free and remove. Have a collection bucket ready to catch the fluid that will leak out. Inspect the banjo bolt. This is in good condition still. We can't reuse them if they're stretched or twisted or the threads are bad, but this one is totally fine, so I can reuse it. I'm gonna set it aside. To restrict the flow of brake fluid, I'm going to pinch this hose. This is the old one, so I'm not worried about it. I have some hose crimping pliers. If you don't have these, you could just use some locking pliers. Pull the hose off of the caliper and make sure that both copper washers came off of the caliper and the banjo bolt respectively. So this one stuck to the hose, which is fine. I'm going to leave it. If it was on the caliper, I'd want to take it off. On the banjo bolt, I have a washer that's stuck on here, so I'm going to have to remove that. The easiest way to do it is with some pliers. Just pinch it and twist it, and that should make it come off. There it is. Banjo bolt is good. We'll set it aside. The brake hose is attached to the strut with a 12mm bolt. Remove it. Pull the brake hose off. And now we're back at the beginning where we started. Let's break this free again. Just like that. That's as much as it wants to turn. Once again, I don't want to break that brake line. There's a locking clip here. We have to pull this out. Pliers or a pry bar will be the easiest way to get this out. Just grab onto it. Okay, and now with that collection bucket underneath, we can pull this down and twist the hose off of the brake line. All right, there's your brake hose. At this point, we have to move a little bit fast just because brake fluid is dripping. So take that new brake hose, line it up, thread it in. Press this in all the way and lock it in with the clip. At this point, we're going to snug up the fitting again. That's bottomed out. We'll give it about 1/8 of a turn at most. That's plenty. Let's reattach the brake hose onto the strut. I coated the area with anti-seize to prevent rust from building up in the future. Tighten it up. On the caliper, let's remove the bleeder screw cap before we attach the hose and break the bleeder screw free so our gravity bleed can start as soon as the hose goes on there. Use a 10mm wrench to break this free, and we'll leave it like that. Take the banjo bolt, put one copper washer on it, and then put that through the hose, and then on the other side, put another copper washer on it. And then stick the hose right into the slot on the caliper and start the banjo bolt in. Let's snug it up. We'll torque this banjo bolt to 25 foot-pounds. All right, your goal with doing this is to squish these two copper washers, and that's going to create a nice tight seal. While we wait for the gravity bleed to be done, I'm going to rinse this off with a brake parts cleaner to make sure I detect any potential leaks. And we have a nice steady trickle of fluid on the bleeder screw here. I'm going to let it sit for a minute. Now this gravity bleed will take care of most, if not all, of the air that's in this line and in this caliper. However, if you think you need to bleed the brakes some more, you can see how to do a full manual brake bleed at the end of the video. Our gravity bleed is done, so I'm going to close this off. Snug it, just like that. Rinse it off with brake parts cleaner. With everything cleaned, cap off the bleeder screw. Let's get the wheel on. We'll put on all 5 lug nuts. We'll bottom them out in a cross pattern, and then also in a cross pattern, we'll torque them to 94 foot-pounds. "94 foot-pounds in a cross pattern, here we go. Double check them. And there you have it. Take it for a road test. On the driver's side of your engine compartment, right behind the air intake housing, you're going to notice you have a brake master cylinder right here, which, if you remove the cap and turn it counterclockwise and read it closely, takes .3 or .4 brake fluid. We want to make sure we have that on hand. I'm going to set the cap aside. Now, if this wasn't a brand new master cylinder and did not have brand new brake fluid in it, what I would do is with the cap off, I would remove this little screen in here, and then with a fluid transfer pump or a vacuum pump of some sort that can remove fluid, I would remove as much of the old brake fluid as I can. Once again, this is brand new fluid that I just put in here, so I'm not going to take it out, and we'll assume that the brake fluid has already been removed. At that point, we would want to top it off. Careful when you do this so you don't spill. And we'll fill it up all the way to the max line, which it is full. Right now you can see the max line on the side of the reservoir right here. And I'm going to cap it back off. The bleeding sequence on this vehicle is starting at the left front, that's the driver's side front caliper. Then you move over to the right front. Then you top off the master cylinder to make sure it's full. Then you move straight back to the right rear caliper and then over to the left rear to finish it off. At that point, you'd top off the master cylinder again. Okay, I have an assistant in the vehicle ready to help me pump the brakes and bleed the brakes. I also have this collection receptacle with a hose on it so I can connect it to my bleeder screw. We are at the left front caliper. This is the first one we're going to start with, as I mentioned. So let's remove the bleeder screw cap, and we'll have a 10mm wrench ready to open up the bleeder screw. Go ahead and pump the brakes, please. All right, they're holding pressure, so I'm going to connect this. I'm going to open it up.
Floor.
All right, it hit the floor, so I'm going to close this off. Go ahead and pump again, and we're going to repeat this until we have no air bubbles and clean fluid coming out of the bleeder screw.
Holding. Floor.
Okay, go again.
Holding. Floor. Holding. Floor. Holding. Floor. Holding. Floor. Holding. Floor.
I like it. Let's do it one more time. Go again.
Holding. Floor.
Perfect. You can let go of the brake pedal now. I'm getting no air bubbles out of this. Clean brake fluid, so I'm going to remove this. We'll wipe off any brake fluid that may have dripped and then cap it off. Next, we'll move over to the right front and do the same exact thing. And then, of course, top off the master cylinder, and then we'll move to the right rear. Remove the cap off the master cylinder, top it off, and cap it back off. I've topped off the master cylinder and I'm at the right rear wheel. This is our third caliper. Gonna remove the bleeder screw cap, put my wrench on there. Same 10mm wrench as before, and my collection receptacle with a hose. Go ahead and pump.
Holding.
Okay, holding pressure.
Floor.
All right, hit the floor. Go ahead and pump again.
Holding. Floor.
Same thing, we're gonna go until we see clean fluid and no air bubbles.
Holding. Floor. Holding. Floor. Holding. 4, holding, 4, holding, 4,
Okay, you can let go of the brake pedal. This fluid is definitely lighter in color now, so I'm going to remove my collection receptacle and my wrench. I'm going to use some brake parts cleaner to rinse this off. With it dried up, cap it off, and let's do the last caliper, that being the left rear. Now let's top off the master cylinder one last time, take the cap off, fill it, and then cap it back off. And if you think you need to bleed more, go again in the same sequence until you're happy with the brake pedal feel and there's no air bubbles coming out of the bleeder screws.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.